Are you happy where you're at?
Yep.
And if you're not, what is the plan to get out of that?
You're listening to the Dare to Be Different podcast, a podcast for people who want to live an extraordinary life. On this week's episode, Joe and Ed talk about the importance of personal reevaluation. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Dare to Be Different podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Joe, and I am here with Ed Newell. How are you today, Ed?
I'm doing great. We're back in the saddle.
We are back in the saddle.
It's been a while.
It has been, man. There's been some guest hosts that have kind of filled in over the last couple weeks.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen because I got to be honest. I haven't been as faithful to listen. I'm a frequent subscriber, frequent downloader.
Yeah,
but don't always listen. So I got to go back and listen to some of your many guest hosts that have been on.
Yeah, it's been great. Nicholas, who's in the room with us, who's usually in the room with us,
right?
Jumped into the chair one week.
Yep.
Did a great job. Alicia talked about having courage in a big change that happened in our lives here with her closing down the.
Did you do an episode on that?
We did, yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and listen.
Yeah, that was the last week, I guess. Depending on when we air this one.
Right.
But yeah, so she got a little emotional, and it should have. It was it was a big change. If you guys didn't listen, I'm not going to tell you what happened. Go back and listen to it. The last podcast with Alicia and I. Big changes that happened in our lives, and some big courageous decisions that my wife made. So
that's awesome. I'll have to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk today about doing some self-reflection and essentially doing a weekly how's life type of conversation with ourselves. Like what just kind of a review, like a life review once a week. But before we do that, I want to talk about something you like. This isn't planned.
Yeah,
but you're going to the Grand Canyon
tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
I'm so pumped about it. My wife's birthday is on Friday, and we have the Southwest Companion Pass.
Yes.
I know you're familiar with this.
Yes, love the Southwest Companion Pass.
So this is a massive travel perk that you can earn if you fly so much with Southwest. And so we have that, but in the midst of COVID, it's like we haven't been able to really take advantage of it. And so we've just been trying to find like small ways that we can take advantage of it. And for her birthday, we're just flying out for 2 days, and the flights would be a lot, but we're getting them for essentially 50% because the companion pass allows you to. It's buy one get one essentially. For
your
every
companion
ticket
flies for free.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we decided to do that, and I had some hotel points saved up, so we're staying at those hotels, and so essentially going out for very, very cheap. And just going out for 2 days. Going to spend a day exploring the Grand Canyon and a day exploring Sedona, Arizona, and all the Red Rocks formations down there. And then we're coming home.
So you're flying into Arizona, so you're kind of doing it from that side. Or
we're flying into Phoenix and then grabbing a car and driving north.
So Alicia and I did it a couple years ago. We went the opposite. So we flew into Vegas.
Yeah.
And drove out that way.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, have you ever been there?
No,
before?
It's our first time.
It is humbling. I have no other word for it. I mean, it is, well, I have other words. It's awe-inspiring. But if I had to describe it, like humbling, where you go, oh my goodness, I feel so small standing in this place right now. It's that impressive.
Even just planning the trip where it's like, well, there's these different places you want to get to, and you map it out on a map, and it's like 2 hours away from each other just to get from like this place to this place. You're like, man, this is huge, And I don't know what I thought. I know it's going to be awe-inspiring, but my wife and I were joking about like I don't know, I would think like, oh, it'd take maybe 2 hours to drive around the whole thing. No, it'd probably take you like 15 hours to drive around the entire Grand Canyon. Like it's completely massive, obviously. And so I'm excited for it. I'm excited what the experience is going to be like. We're not massive like outdoorsy people or hiking people. So we don't have like a ton of things planned, but we're going to go to a few of the overlooks. We got a few hikes that we do want to do to get to some points. And the one day, assuming it all goes well, we're hopefully going to see the sunrise over the Grand Canyon on this Friday. So we're looking forward to it. It should be a good time to just, even though we're going to be kind of busy and moving a little quickly on these last 2 days. The only 2 days we're going to be there. It should be relatively relaxing. It should be a a little refreshing.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a great experience. It really is.
Yeah.
One thing, if you're going to,
We're not taking our kids. That's huge. I did not tell you that.
that's a bit. I would not take kids to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
One of the things in the
maybe
tourist
your
place-
age, maybe your kid's age.
When I say kids, I'm talking about
Little
element,
kids. Yeah,
like
yeah.
any that you need to hold onto their hand so they
Right.
don't careen to their death. Like that is, I would not take any that are that age.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Because a lot of the time that we were there, Alicia was sweating because people were getting really close to the edge and they're doing like the selfie sticks. I mean, and it's like you die. Like there's no hope of
Right.
Like you're tumbling and tumbling and tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. Like
You're dead.
You're dead.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's just a ton of people like acting stupid, like going back further and further and further. But
and obviously we're recording this in the middle of COVID season, year of 2020, and what we're finding out just from talking to people is obviously attendance is just way down.
Sure.
So that's going to be kind of nice. But then, have you ever heard of Antelope Canyons? So there are these majestic canyons. I guaranteed you've seen pictures of them if like you've ever looked up anything in Arizona, where there's these canyons you can go in and just like floor to ceiling, just these beautiful colors that just race up the sides. Anyways, it's on Navajo property.
Okay.
And it's all shut down for COVID right now.
Gotcha.
And we're kind of still just holding out, like they might be able to be open even by the end of this week. But that's like one thing that we're kind of still holding on to. Like maybe we'll get to go explore those as well, but we'll see. It should be a humbling, awe-inspiring trip.
Take sunscreen, man. It's hot.
It's 100 degrees.
Yeah, it is hot.
Yeah.
Like we went in September, almost October,
Yeah.
and it was hot out there. Let alone like right now is.
Yeah, that's our plan, and we're trying again. We're not too outdoorsy, so we're trying to make the trip so we're not like in the dead of heat. So we're going out in the mornings, going out in the evenings, and middle of days we're planning some other things. So yeah, should be
Very
fun.
cool.
Yeah.
So, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big. Somebody had I read this somewhere where it said, spend your money on experiences, not on things.
Right.
And I'm noticing as I grow older how important that is.
Right.
It's just, again, we like toys. You and I are kind of cut from the same cloth. We like the newest iPhone and stuff like that.
Yep.
But at this point in my life, I would spend $1,000 on a cool experience before I would spend $1,000 on a phone.
And that's definitely where we're at. We at this point we spend money. I still get my toys, this stuff that I like, but a lot of our money's going to the kids, right?
Sure.
And what we need for them, or the house, or things like that. So this opportunity pops up because of these points and stuff that we had kind of logged. And it's my wife's birthday, so we're like, we're gonna, instead of me buying her a gift, we're gonna spend it on an experience and go out there.
Yeah, you go out to dinner and get a gift and stuff. You're gonna spend the same amount of money as something that you're gonna look at the pictures and go, "Wow, that was amazing, amazing experience."
Exactly.
So very cool.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, for those of you that have sat through that, but you have never been listened to the Dare to Be Different podcast before, thanks for sticking around for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
As we chit chatted. But the Dare to Be Different podcast is all about living an extraordinary life, and we have 5 values that we point to that helps us to keep that extraordinary life in view. And those are honest, passionate, adventurous, grateful, and healthy.
Right.
And today, I don't necessarily want to talk about one of those in particular. This is kind of a, like I said, doing a life review and going, how extraordinary is my life? Am I doing the things that will lead to that? And I had somebody had mentioned this, and I really, really liked it, and I can't remember who did, but they said, once a week you should take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever, and evaluate your roles and your goals. So what is the role? What roles do you play in your life?
Yep.
So father, employee, whatever those roles are.
Yep.
And then the goals that you have for your life.
Yep.
And are you fulfilling the roles that you want? So you're an employee, but you want to be an employer.
Right.
Okay, well, have you done anything in the past week to further that?
Right.
Or whatever the case may be. Hey, I'm I want to be a husband.
Yeah.
But I don't have a wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And then sometimes people's roles, change. You internally want to change a role. Or you're in a role that you don't necessarily want to be in. It's I'm in a bad relationship.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I need to change that role. But then, the goals as well. What am I doing to reach my goals? Do I have to reset my goals?
Right.
I call it, and I call it like the path and plan. You know what I mean? Are
Mm.
you on the path that you want?
Yeah.
And are you moving in a plan that gets you where you want to go?
So is this something that you actively do now, or something that you've recently learned about, or?
I have done it for a long time, but articulating it
Yeah.
is a little bit different
Right.
than just doing it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does, because I'm thinking about this in the context of more, I guess, my marriage. I'm sure I do it from a personal standpoint too, but to make our opening actually matter and not just meaningless
Sure.
chatter. That's why we're going on this trip.
Yep.
Like my wife and I just saying, you know what, we want to do something adventurous, right? And that's one of the five words here. So it was maybe just a reevaluation of, okay, we want to do something for your birthday. We went through the usual ideas, like, do we have people over? Like, do we do dinner? Like,
Yep.
all these things. It's like, you know what? Why don't we just take 2 days and just go somewhere that Southwest flies to? That was
Yeah.
literally the plan. Go somewhere Southwest flies to, and just do that. And we, in this season, and we're not upset about this, but in this season of having young kids, our life tends to look less adventurous.
Yep.
And so we thought, okay, we just want to kind of keep that alive, that the adventurous spirit alive. And so that's what led to this trip.
Mhm.
And so we do that a lot, I think, in our relationship, even on a weekly basis, where we're just touching base. We don't even call it anything, but honestly, we will regularly have like a meeting. It's like a family meeting, but it's just her and I. Maybe one day
Right.
this will include our kids. And most of the time, we're just looking at the week, like, what do we got coming up this week, making sure that we're on the same page, that nothing's going to surprise one another, that neither of us have expectations on one another, that
Oh, that's good.
we didn't communicate, and then when the spouse doesn't meet them, that causes frustration. So we're oftentimes looking at our calendar and just figuring out, okay, what do we need to accomplish this week?
Mhm.
But we will kind of look sometimes into the future ahead. If literally right now in this moment, we're thinking about Thanksgiving. What are we going to do
Mhm.
for that? We normally travel to see family on Thanksgiving, so we do that as a couple, where we're regularly just kind of self-reflecting. Where are we today? Where we need to be this week? Where do we need to be in this next season, or whatever? And we're going to make sure that we're making the decisions that are right.
Yep.
For me personally, I'm not sure I do it as often as I probably would like to. I think if I'm doing a little bit of real time self reflection, I can often think of times where I get too caught up in maybe like the rat race of life.
Yep.
That I don't slow myself down enough to do it for myself, and oftentimes it's easier for me to maybe see things in other people's lives and tell other people what I think they should be doing, even whether I have the authority to do that or not.
Right.
Than
We'll
do
call
in
it
myself.
advice.
Yeah,
To be nice.
exactly.
Yes.
So I'm not sure I do it as often as I probably should in just myself.
But think about this for a second, though. If you purpose to do it
Right.
once a week,
Yeah.
where you really did a, how's life
Mhm.
conversation with yourself, and maybe it's with your spouse, maybe it's with
Yeah.
maybe it's with somebody that you respect, maybe it's you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because I get approached all the time by business coaches or people that want me to be a business coach. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what I found, again, just through reading through, a lot of it simply is making that person take the time to say, how are things going?
Right.
Because normal people don't do that.
Yep.
Once a week,
Yeah.
how's life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then kind of going, okay, if there's something in your life that you like it, okay, how do we keep it or expand it?
Sure.
And if there's something that you don't like, how do we get rid of it?
Right.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
But
The-
people don't do it.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people that keep journals,
Yep.
right? So this is a little bit of the same vein.
It is.
They're keeping a journal because they want to maybe remember things that have happened, or they need a place that's an outlet for their thoughts. But another massive reason I know people keep journals is to really think about where their life is today and where it's going.
Mhm.
I've never been a journaler. Like,
Yep.
I've just never done that. But for me, I think I tend to just again get caught up in life, and so maybe I'm doing a lot of that in my head as I'm going. I just feel like life is just running a million miles an hour for me.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. I never made a decision that I'm going to prioritize pausing to think about, where I'm at in life. What's funny is I feel like I do that in my job a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been taught that. I've been taught that by leaders that I've been around. That if you get too caught up in what you're doing, you will never think about how you're doing it, right?
Right.
And so it's hard to actually take a step away from the what you're doing and actually think about it and how are you spending your time and could you be doing it better? And even if you think of ways to do it better, sometimes it's hard to make those advancements because again, you're just caught in this endless cycle of doing things the way you've always
Mm-hmm.
been doing it. So this is challenging. I think for me, what that possibly could look like is setting aside some of my morning time because I'm a morning guy,
Yep.
get up early, and so I'm going to use that time to do whatever I need to do, whether it's check email or get a good breakfast or workout or whatever. But I feel like there could be time where I really am just setting it aside to ask myself some really authentic questions of how am I doing
Mm-hmm.
today? How am I doing in this season? And where do I need to be going?
It's really interesting because you're dead on. People do this in their job all the time.
Yeah.
If you're in a manufacturing environment, measuring measuring what you're doing and understanding the output of that, it's that's the only way to have positive change.
Right.
I have a good friend of both of ours is the COO of FlexScreen, and he's all about measuring. I mean, he's all about measuring because if you can't measure it, you can't change it. Like, if you can't see the results, it's impossible to change.
Yeah.
So, in the factories, we have, every single job is measured. Not to say, hey, you did a bad job today. It's just to say, hey, this is the pace that we're on, and this is what if we make a change, this is how we evaluate whether or not it was successful, et cetera, right?
Right.
So, and there's TVs around the plants, and so we can see what's going on and see how those changes. But we don't do it with our personal life.
Yeah.
We kind of we drift through life doing what we do without going, is this the right thing that we should be doing?
Yeah.
And is it getting us further towards what we want out of our lives?
Yeah. So is there any leader in your life that you feel that you know of, maybe you don't know, that you feel like does do this?
What's interesting is, one of the things that, and you and I kind of grew up in leadership having a mutual leader, Lee Kreitzer, who's a great leader.
Yeah.
And, he would make us do self-assessments, which was, hey, we were, working within the same volunteer organization.
Right.
And it wasn't like you sat down with your leader and he said, this is the things that you have to change.
Yeah.
It was, what do you think needs to change and how are you going to get there? And let me help you formulate a plan to get there.
Right.
And, that to me was, it was pretty eye-opening. And that was, man, my goodness, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
So, but to run your life like that, like I said, to me, that was just one of those things where over the last couple years, it was almost a necessity.
Right.
I mean, where I had to look at this and go, okay, what is the most important thing right now? Because business is crazy, family's crazy, all these things are going on. And I had to, and there's only 24 hours in the,
Right.
and I sleep very little. So I maximize every single moment that I can. But there's just times where you go, okay, this is not working, or I'm terribly unhappy with life. Why am I unhappy with life? Well, it's because I'm prioritizing the wrong things, or I'm on the wrong path towards my goals, or whatever the case may be.
Right. So much of this I feel like is training yourself to live more proactively, because and again I guess I'm thinking I'm doing some real-time self-reflection, but I think too often I tend to live my life reactively.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
All
Where
of us do.
I'll eat something unhealthy and then I like berate myself about how terrible of a decision that was and how I need to eat better and all these things, or I make a good decision.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, okay, I kind of stumbled into that going on that run today when I didn't have it planned. What if I actually just planned to go for that run and was more intentional about making sure that I can get that run in? too often I'm just letting life happen to me and letting things come to me. But just having this personal self-reflection time to sit down, you're saying, okay, I'm going to be proactive about the areas of my life. And you gave examples earlier about what advancements do I want to make in my career or my relationship or my health or whatever the area of your life.
Financial,
Yep.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. I think that people make this into something bigger than it has to be.
Yeah.
It's simply 5 minutes of thought. Maybe you jot some stuff down,
Mm.
but take a good look at your life, and are you happy where you're at?
Yep.
And if you're not, what is the plan to get out of that?
Yeah.
What is the plan to make some changes?
Right.
If you're unhappy with your health, okay. Well, if you continue to be reactionary, you're going to shop for the same things. You're going to eat at the same places. You're going to follow the same habits of, eating at 3:00 in the morning because you woke up, whatever the case may be. Right. But if you have that self-reflective time, Monday at 6 a.m. or whatever time that is, and you just say, look, I'm unhappy with my health. So here's some things that I'm going to try to do this week. Maybe they'll work, maybe they won't. But at least I understand, at least I acknowledge that this thing isn't working and I need to make a change. I want to make a change.
I feel like I've heard you say this before, but haven't you and Alicia, or maybe we just talked about this, but haven't you and Alicia written down like a vision statement for your marriage or something? Have you done that?
It was for our family.
For your family.
Yeah. So we want to create a place that our kids want to come back to when they no longer have to.
That's really good.
Yeah. So that's so that again, when we are looking at, I just, I'll tell myself, I overreacted this week with my daughter, Isabella.
Yeah.
It was like one of those stupid things. I was in the middle of something.
Yeah.
I asked her to do something. She's like, it's not working. And I'm like, look, if I have to come over there, like, stop, it's just that, like that kind of thing,
Right.
And, when I self-reflected on it, when my wife told me that I should self-reflect on that, it made it really clear that I had to go up and apologize. You know what I mean? It was just like, look, I have this goal in mind. I have this relationship with my children that I want to have, and my pride or whatever the case may be isn't worth, it's not worth messing up that goal that I have in my life.
Right.
And again, that's just one of those things that becomes really, really easy when you're tough on yourself. And it doesn't have to be tough on yourself, but when you're honest with yourself,
right.
That time will help you to do a better next time or to fix the issues that happened that last week.
Well, and I don't want to overlook the idea that the reason that you and Alicia in that moment realized you had to do some self-reflection and maybe do an apology is because you have this vision statement for your family. So at some point you guys sat down and thought about that. That was a self-reflective moment.
Oh, absolutely was.
And it's almost like if you could sit down and write the vision statement for your life or a vision statement for your career or marriage or health or whatever, finances, what would that look like and what would that be? And it doesn't have to be the same as somebody else's. But if you can narrow that down, if you could maybe just spend 5 minutes and write that out, that can be the foundation for which you spend further self-reflection to make sure that I'm actually working towards that vision that I actually want. If you guys did not have a vision for how you wanted to run your family, who knows if it would have mattered to you that you didn't respond correctly. But the fact that you did have that vision statement, it's going to impact how you live your life every single day. It's going to bleed into your day-to-day decisions. I've heard it said that one of your greatest responsibilities is your response ability. So two words
that's
there.
good. Yeah.
And one of your greatest responsibilities is your response ability. So how effective are you at responding in life? And that's where I think it gets into, if you're proactive about your vision, if you're proactive about who you want to be, when life throws something at you, the way you react, the way you respond will be more aligned with the thing that you've previously have decided, this is who I want to be. This is the type of life I want to live. And there's a pastor that I follow, and he talks about this idea that the way to change the natural course of things is not natural. And so if you let life come at you, there's going to be a natural flow to your life of how you're just going to react and do things. If you want to live a life that's extraordinary, you got to do some things that are a little unnatural, that really not everybody else is doing. And that's what we're talking about, right? We want to live an extraordinary life. And so what is something that not everybody does? It's taking some time to self-reflect. It's taking some time to write vision statements for my life and these areas of my life, and then figuring out, am I actually doing that?
It is, and this is a big key. It really is. We can talk about being honest and passionate and adventurous and all that stuff, but if you don't, in your heart of hearts, deep down, know if you're on the path to do any of those things or to have an extraordinary life, you're simply going to live your 70 or 80 years and you know, and then be gone. But this is again, to me, measuring something, evaluating something, and reflecting on it is the only way that we can get better, and that we can be I love the way you said it, being proactive with your life rather than reactive.
Yeah.
There's always going to be times that we have to react 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's life. You know what I mean? Like, stuff comes at us. But if you have that time where you reset and go, how is life? You know what I mean? And again, I talked about, you know, Alicia. You know, that's where kind of some of this comes from.
Yeah.
You know, we had to have a conversation. We had a conversation where we said, how's life? And she's like, I'm miserable. This is terrible. Like, I hate going up there. It's painful. And then when she was honest with herself and she was honest with me, and then we went and talked to our son who was, you know, involved in this, and he had this leeway to be honest with himself and honest with us. We're like, wow, we are on the wrong path here.
Right.
This is not good. And truly, if we would not have had that time, we would have continued down this path and we would have stayed where we're at. And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, my wife and son still would be miserable because they were going up there, you know, being part of this circumstance. It just wasn't good for them.
Right.
And so I really want to urge everybody that's listening to take this time. This is really, really easy homework.
Yeah.
It really is. And it will change your life.
Yeah. If you want to respond well, like if you want to have a good response ability, you know, when I wake up and I don't know, maybe my kids didn't sleep well the last night, but I know I want to get up early and run. The fact that I can't control if my kids are going to not sleep well, but I can decide how I'm going to respond in the morning. And if I don't have a vision about my health and what I want it to look like and what I want it to be, and if I'm not regularly self-reflecting on the state of my health and how I'm eating and how I'm living, it's going to be so easy for me to say, well, you know what? I didn't quite get the sleep I really needed last night, so I'm just going to stay in bed and I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to do that run. And at the end of the day, I'm going to react in a way that I ultimately don't want to, or that I wish I wouldn't have reacted that way. Or maybe you're like, yeah, I need to sleep more than I need to run. Who knows what the case may be. But for me, if I can think ahead of time, if I can be proactive to think about who I want to be, the type of person I want to be, the type of life I want to live, how long I want to live, the type of husband and father I want to be, all of it, there's going to be a lot of it that is related to my health and making sure that I'm healthy. And so when things don't go as planned in my day or I don't get a good night's sleep, I still want to make sure I have a good response ability to get up and say, okay, I know the night didn't look the way I wanted it to, but I'm still going to make the decision I know is right for this moment. And so even though life is going to throw these things at you and it's going to force you to react in all kinds of different situations, if you do this tip, if you really focus on this, it's going to give you the ability to react better.
It will. It 100% will. And I can tell you too, you know, I know happy people that do this every day. You know, because it's just a habit. It's just, and it's not hard. You know, it is daunting at the beginning, right? But as you start doing it more often, it almost becomes part of a reaction, right?
Yeah.
So you know, there's something in my life that is great. Okay, how do I keep that? You know what I mean? And you almost do this. You just end up doing it naturally,
right?
You know, okay, this was great. This was a great day. All right, so now this is part of what I want life to be like.
Right.
All right, so now how do I do that? And you can do that so fast,
right?
You know, if you shut off Netflix or get off of Facebook, you know, it's not a very difficult thing. So, but no, this is huge. I really hope that all of our listeners, and I hope that, you know, I do this more. I want to do this more and more. So
yeah, and you can self-reflect off of a day that does not go the way you wanted it to, and you can self-reflect off of a day that, man, looks exactly like what you want it to be. And you can learn off of both days, both circumstances, both types of reactions, and really figure out, okay, where do I want to go from here? But I'm challenged by the idea that you guys do have that vision statement for your family. And I do think if that seems like too tall of an order, you know, even just think of the type of person you want to be in just some words. But I'm challenged by the idea of making a full vision statement, because I think if you can have something clear and concise, it could drive everything else.
It absolutely can. And so, anyway, that's all the time we have, man. This was great, man.
It was. That was really good.
Yeah, I not that I want to take a break from doing podcasts with you, but we could have nailed it. By the way, I want to do one in the future called Just Show Up.
Just show up.
You had talked about the running and stuff like that, and I just started working out again. And what I've noticed is if I just show up,
Yep.
I don't have to worry about the workout that I'm doing. All I have to do is worry about getting to the place that I'm going to work out. As soon as I do that, the rest kind of takes care of it. So we're gonna do one.
Let's
about
record
just
it next
showing
week.
Up. Yeah,
I got some thoughts on just
that's
showing
great.
up.
So anyway, thank you guys so much for being a part of the Dare to Be Different family, and I hope that you got something out of this. I hope that there's somebody in your life that needs to hear this. Somebody that can benefit from some self-reflection, and I hope that you share this with them. We love you. Click the subscribe button on your podcast service of choice. Listen to us every single week.
Yep.
So love you. Catch you next week.